time. So I'm like, this ain't how my brothers view it. They just do. They just be. This is what they got. But they're not walking around thinking like, woe is me. I left my shirt at the house with the fringes.
It's a level of consciousness.
Right.
So like I said, we even in the scripture when you read it, all the different things we're doing is to stimulate a certain state of consciousness.
Absolutely.
The sacrificing, the smelling of the blood, or the smelling of the incense, the garments that's being worn. In all, let me not say all, because I can't speak for everybody. In most spiritual systems that you look at of indigenous people, of organization, smell, taste, hearing, seeing, all those senses are touched to stimulate something like a blessing or whatever the case may be.
Right.
And I don't want to say the lowest, at certain states of consciousness, you could be very superstitious. That's the word they use for it. I mean, I don't know if anybody has a better word for it. I'm not trying to demean anybody.
Right.
But, like, I know people that they got a Torah. It's wrapped up, taped up, everything. Don't put it on the floor. Don't do this. It's a book. I'm sorry.
Right.
It's a book with pages in it.
Right.
Yeah, but I think what I would take from what you're saying is that we miss the amount of energy that we put into said keepsake.
And somebody could say, you're sinning.
Right.
Because you have turned away from the truth and you've gone into these other things. Yeah. These other things that's taking your mind to say, this book is going to bring me closer to the Creator. Not to say it's not, but have you gone within? Right. But I'll stop right there. Go ahead.
I mean, that's the whole, at least for me, right? That's where I'm at this point, at this stage in my life, right? As an individual, I have had my run with the corporal world, the material world, and I like nice things. Don't get it twisted.
Yes, we know.
Yeah, we know that.
This is Gadget Man for all you that don't know. This is Gadget Man.
I like nice things, right? But I've had the opportunity to I've had my season with those things. You feel what I'm saying? So like, if to your point, Zoke, no man, I'm not cursed. I do not ascribe to that idea.
Right.
Right. I'm a sinner. Okay. Right on. I really have to gauge, the energetic output, you know what I mean, in conversations like that, because, why can't I just be somebody who is striving to learn? What,
or just be.
Why is the perception that most of us have been given is to only see the detriment or the shadow of an individual and not their light? Which, when you look at if you want to examine the Bible, let's say like specifically the New Testament, right? Yeshua was all about seeing the light in people, not necessarily the shadow.
Right.
Now you had people that was tuned into that, Pharisees, Sadducees, the gatekeepers, the hammers of the law. Right? That was their frequency. And I'm not saying it was wrong or anything like that. That's just what they saw. I used to be very technical.
Right.
In the earlier stages of my development.
Because the earlier stages is about what it says verbatim.
What it says verbatim.
It's and I'm using the term intellect. And one of I will call it one of my teachers, because I'm learning now that everybody that you get something from is a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And Sadhguru, he said your intellect is like an X-Acto knife.
Mm-hmm.
It is used to divide things up and label it to make it make sense. You see what I'm saying? The intellect, you could, a lot of us have dissected some type of animal in school, in biology. Maybe not everybody, but I have. And with that X-Acto knife, you're cutting the frog and you're learning about this is the lungs, the gills, so on, the heart, blah 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 blah. But now the question is, do you know do you know the frog? You understand how the parts work, but do you know the frog? So the intellect is like, this is God, and God says this, and don't do this, and you do this, go to church, go to assembly, go to this, and you have to do it this way. You can't sleep with your wife, if she's on a cycle, blah, blah. All these things. Has that gotten you closer to the Creator? Have you gone within and did he talk to you? Did he show you if what you're doing is the right thing? If you're going to use the word right, did he show you that you don't agree with something and you just going to be quiet to go along and get along? Did he show you that, well, you really ain't got it, but well, since everybody else is going to do this, you got to give your last, and now you got to struggle for the next 2 months, and in 2 months something else is going to come up. So it's like, it's kind of like what you said it before. It's like, a lot of things that we may do, it's counterproductive to what spirit is actually telling you to do. You're going with the intellect and the things outwardly to make moves and decisions.
So how do you reconcile these thoughts with the idea that you are a God? Ye are Elohim.
Well, I would say number one, you have to, the spirit is always talking. It's always reaching out. So it's up to you to really to start listening. But you can't listen if you got a lot of distractions going on. If someone else is in your ear or what have you like that. I'll go back to what you were saying about going inside yourself,
right,
or going inside. A lot of us is not taught that.
Right.
A lot of us are taught that God is out there somewhere, and whatever happens, or it's, how was it put in that what some people would say, he's distinct from his creation.
Right.
Right. So a lot of us been taught that. So when we get to that point of understanding that whatever happens outside of us or to us, we think, well, okay, I didn't do that. Or let's go back to this teat seat things. I didn't wear my teat seats today. That's why it happened. Right. So we're looking at the outward instead of going within and looking within the self and finding, or the listening to the Creator.
Well, I mean, go ahead.
And no disrespect to anybody that's visually impaired, but I kept hearing being blind. It's a blind person. Of course, you use your ears,
right?
But if they have the walking stick, it's a connection outside to say, okay, I'm clear on this path. So it's like people are looking externally constantly to seek the Creator,
right? Going
to a place, dressing a certain way,
right?
Speaking a certain way, even though they may not speak that way at home or speak that way commonly. It's so much to it, and it's like, man, I'm not in a garment today because I didn't feel like wearing one today. Right. I felt like this.
You do have a garment on. You ain't sitting here naked.
Correct.
So,
a culture, what we would consider a Hebraic culture
garment.
I
got you. I got you.
I'm just saying, it's religion is in the way of the Creator.
Right.
I mean, you're right, and though that is the ideological conflation that the text,
the most religious people
carries,
don't know. They can know God, but they don't know the Creator. God in itself is so far from the Creator. It's a long path in between it. That's
dope.
Just because you know God doesn't mean you know the Creator. I've said a couple of past podcasts ago, it's like, if you really want to know, and at the time I said God, but if you really want to know the Creator, you go outside.
Right.
You take off all your garments.
Right.
That's how you came here. And when we learn about the people that came before us, the ancestors that came before us.
Brother, you talking about some heathens.
When they got, when they got the inkling of the Creator, they were perceived as out of their minds.
Savages.
Crazy. They dance naked in the street playing music.
Right.
Because the music, the frequency is what was the connection with him and the Creator. Didn't have to be God.
Right.
Didn't have to be Yahweh. Yahweh about that business. But music, melodic music,
Mhm.
that's of the creator. There's frequency and mathematics and all of creation.
Right.
But when you bring that down to Yahweh, that's a small section. Just a very, very small section of the creator itself. Like my man says, whatever that is.
Right.
You know, that's
I like that. Whatever that is,
Right,
because that gives it for whoever out there wants to understand that the differential that I'm making
right.
is that Yahweh is a creation of, not the creator.
Right. It's something that needs to be unpacked, because I know somebody's like, well, no, we Yod Hey Why is, and
That's the religion.
I have been told personally from spirit that one could say that.
Right.
They could use that title to label that undifferentiated, unknowable, unfathomable source. You can use that because technically, he's an aspect of that.
Right. The aspect, right.
But just like you're an aspect of that.
Exactly.
Right.
And in that area, I think a lot of people have a disconnect.
Right.
You know, they say, no, I'm a created being and I worship the creator.
Right.
That's out. Right.
That's
Okay. Look, the West African religious thought process.
Right. They
I'll
always-
say the Yoruba.
okay.
The Yoruba have Olodumare. And Olodumare is too vast for human
understanding. Yeah.
human contact, period. It's like it's and then they have Olofe or they have Obatala. That's the aspect that humans deal with.
Right. Got you.
But the Most High, it ain't got
I don't think they got shrines for
no.
There's
you
no shrines
can't.
for the Most High.
Yeah, you can't,
Right.
you know. But when it comes to creation, all praise of creation goes to Olodumare.
That's just like the Edo people
Yes.
of Nigeria.
Yes, the same. Yeah,
They-
Yeah.
yeah.
They have Osanabuwa,
right.
Right.
and Osanabuwa is
Bring it out.
is described as the highest who resides above the waters.
Right. The Igbo call it Chuoku.
Yeah.
So-
So it's like, where and I think that, Western intellect, it really trains us to home in on the differences of, I'm gonna just say, names or semantics, and we don't really capture the patterns that are consistent.
I got goosebumps. Man, this week I've been looking into the oh man, not the Gita, but some ancient Indian texts. I'm trying to remember the name of it. The Mahabharata, even Greek mythology. It's all there. It may be convoluted, like Zeus, Prometheus. These titles are actually, we're talking about the same gods. But what they've done is as time has progressed, the redactations and so on and so forth, and knowledge or the of what it actually was has been lost to an extent. We call it a mythology. Okay.
Right.
Spider. We call it a mythology. But when you start, for me, I'm like a bridge, and Mike is as well. Like, you start reading certain things, you're like, yo, that's the same thing.
Right.
It's using a different name, and it may be talking about a different eon of time, but we're all carrying on these stories. And I did look it up. We talked about the cataclysm. It was actually 4 of them, or they call them yugas, Kali yugas,
Right.
different,
Yes.
and they got different names. And it talks about the earth went through these different cataclysms or destructions.
Right.
And Noah was the story of Noah, whoever and whatever that was the last one, or the most recent one. And when we read the biblical narrative, it's another